All right, welcome everybody to Paradigm's 14th live stream of 2025. My name is Parker Rogers, and I'm joined by our co-founder, Fabio Di Letta. And in these weekly live streams, we typically are demonstrating new Paradigm features and new AI integrations that we've built. And today, we're going a step further. We are going to compare what we've built in Paradigm's Code IDE to Cursor and Snowflake Workspaces. So, Fabio, with no further ado, the time is yours.
Right, let's kick off the battle of the IDEs. So yeah, we're gonna go and compare now Paradime versus Snowflake Workspaces versus Cursor. So we'll start from the comparison around how Git works within these different interfaces. Within Paradime, we do have what we call Git Lite. What this means in practice is that we handle a lot of complexity behind the scene on how to create branches, update branches. So one thing I never have to do ever again is making sure that I do check out and select which is my default branch and where to check out from. So I can just go in here and say, I want to create a new branch. I'll call this FDL Dino number one. I'll click on create branch. And here we basically take care of creating that branch from my default. That means that even if I was on a custom branch, we always create from the latest version we have. Now, let's go and see how we do this exactly same workflows with Snowflake. So if I go back here, now I can go to changes, and here I'm currently on this branch. So if I want to go and create a new branch, I'm always going to be creating this based on my current branch. And this can be quite painful because it means that I might end up starting my work based on a stale version of it. I first have to go and click on main, check out the main branch in there to get things off the ground, wait for that to happen, and then only when that is completed, I can now go to changes again, click on create new branch, and now I can actually create always from the main branch here. So a bit more complex to handle here to make sure that we always start fresh from the latest up-to-date version of our code base. So I'll call this Fabio. Cool. Okay, so there's already a difference here in the way we handle this workflow. Now we've done this, let's go and check out what this means in Cursor. So we have set up Cursor for us already here, and a couple of things we'll see right away is that there's no concept of Git Lite. So you can only work with Git based on what we call Git Advanced in Paradime. So it's a bit less user-friendly, we'll say. And then if I want to create a branch, I can go here. I have to create a new branch. Again, it's not super automatic to create a branch from the latest version of my default branch. Either I have to create a branch from here and then select my main origin and then call this Fabio Cursor, whatever number I want there. Cool. So this is already a difference. I see at the moment also the branch is not pushed or published. So I have to do that first. And here we're already looking at different angles of how Git workflows happens within those platforms. That's the first thing that we're looking at. Now, let's dive into the AI player as well. One of the first things we want to do in here is we have our sources.yaml and we want to go and update this. So in Paradime, we can use the prompt library. I can click on update source. Now just send this here. And now we're going to run this exact same prompt within Cursor. And then we'll see how we can achieve something like this within Snowflake as well. So the agent now in Paradime is able to access our Snowflake database, find all the tables that are currently missing in my sources.yaml, and then start generating the YAML file for us with the missing 4 tables that are coming back from our database. Okay, so now we'll see already the selected diffing of what is being added and removed and all the column definitions. So the agent in Paradime was able to update the YAML file as we expect. So I can just go ahead and click on accept. And now we can wrap up our Git workflow. If we want to stop here, we can use our write commit message. So this is using DinoAI agent to then generate a commit message. You can click on commit, and how we're going to commit, push, make sure that my branch is up to date with my remote as well. So kind of like really focus on reducing the amount of time somebody can get out of sync. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and run exactly the same thing within Cursor. Let's do something similar. I'll go here, I'll go on models, I'll open my sources.yaml file. So I have something here. I can now go ahead and send this one. So let's see what Cursors will do for us. So Again, I expect that it will go and find some missing tables on the back of this. Okay. Okay, it's taking a bit longer. Okay, seems there's been some issue here. Let's try again. Okay, so now we're back on track. Again, it's pretty cool showing us our to-do list here. It's a pretty nice way of displaying the next steps. And it's now going through getting access to the database in a similar way of how we do it at Paradime. And it's now pulling all the information we want from here and finding the tables that are missing and going through now some additional steps in here. Okay, so it's looking at finding some additional definitions for our tables. Okay, we see an error here, which is interesting. On this front, let's try again. Okay, let's keep trying. Let's see, it's not able to find a few things. I think that's probably one of the important things around having native capabilities that we build a Paradime comparing with using SCP. It's getting a lot of error now, but let's see. Okay, so it finally went through, and now it's updating my YAML file after pulling all this information. And then everything has been updated here again. And now it's starting the second one. Perfect. Okay. Okay. Yep. Perfect. I can see we have, I think, all of them. So it's lab time, pit stop, qualifying. Perfect. Yeah. So all the 4 tables have been updated. There's been a hiccup at the very beginning on getting the connection up and running. I have to say, it took me quite a bit of time to get the MCP service up in Cursor. I think these sort of things that we still have to make sure that we provide the right JSONs and configuration. It wasn't as a smooth experience that I would have hoped so. It took me quite a few hours to get things up and running. We got there at the end. That's important. But yeah, I can click on keep all now. Okay, all my changes have been done and completed. I can go ahead here, and Cursor also has a commit message using AI, and I can click on commit. And now I also have to go ahead and manually sync my changes there. Cool. So I'm going to now go ahead and use the exact same prompt again. And let's see what we can do now within Snowflake. Okay, yeah, let's go and check this out. First thing we'll notice here, there's actually no Copilot, right? So I don't have the ability to actually open a chat here. I just can try to get, to be honest, I didn't know about this initially. What I can do now is interesting. There's not really a way for me to update this YAML file, right? Snowflake does provide a command I interface to do some like inline compile. We'll see here now, which is this one here. But I don't really have a way for me to add this and provide this information directly within the file. So I had to create another file. I'm going to have the same prompt. And let's see what happened here. So this is the first problem we have with Snowflake Workspaces here, is that there's not really a way to attach context, right? It's a very good tool to generate SQL on the back of our databases and table, but it lacks the context near. So I'm trying to actually generate this YAML file, but it's actually returning a bunch of things which I really don't care about it. So yeah, this is the first things around generation. I think it's pretty important to notice the fact that Snowflake is actually a quite different interface. Like I cannot even use this within a YAML file, for instance. So I can go here. If I want to select this, I'm pressing Command I, nothing happened. If I want to go here and do something similar within the DBT model, not a standard SQL file, so I'm still having some trouble with it. So yeah, that's the first step. We did some comparison within those 3 platforms around sources generations and AI-driven updates on our files. Let's try a bunch of things now. So look at what do we do normally, right? Within Paradime, if you want to run a model, for instance, Paradime does have access to a fully fledged terminal. So I can actually click in here and set up run. We have the ability to run with the selector we want inside our terminal. So we can do that. We can, of course, add any command here. So if I do plus no partial parse or is, have fully fledged interface for working with terminal, whether it's DBT or Git. Now, let's say if you're going to check it out on Cursor, again, I can open this up for me. I do have some additional configurations that I was able to put in place. As a Cursor is a shell, right? It doesn't come with dbt pre-install or data preview or lineage or documentation. Any of those things are not available out of the box. So I had to use one of the most commonly used extensions for VS Code to enable some of those features within Cursor. So as a result of that, I do have a way for executing the SQL here or executing the model in there. So I can click on that. And now we're running apparently a full build here, which I probably don't want in here, but I do want to run one model only. So I'll do run dbt model. Yeah, that's the one I want. And now we are seeing the model being executed in here. What is good, I think it's much more similar to us in terms of having a fully fledged terminal interface. However, installing dbt is something I have to do separately. So there's a bit of setup in place that needs to happen here before we can actually get to this stage, compared with Paradime that it comes already pre-installed and pre-configured, so that the only thing you have to do is start working with that. Cool. I guess that's one for the run side. Let's look at what we do within Snowflake, right? So I have the same model. What is interesting here, they also have a way for us to run in here, but yeah, Snowflake does not have a terminal, so it's everything to the AI. So if I want to provide a different flag, what I did before, or even what the example, I have to actually separate this and then add -exclude or -select in this case, whatever like flags I want to use there. Let's go with the standard one here. So we'll try and run now this dbt model that I have. And try and execute this project. Okay, so something interesting as well is that it seems that Snowflake does not retain the fact that I have some dbt package already installed from my previous branch. So I actually have to do dbt deps every time I create a new branch here. Okay, let's do this first. Okay, so installing the packages now. Okay, so now if I want to run my model, I have to go select run again, and then press run. Okay, now this should execute our dbt model now. So a couple of differences we're seeing, and some between Paradime cursors versus Snowflake Workspace. One is that, of course, Paradime and cursors both have a terminal. They have a lot more flexibility on running commands and also a few built-in features around dbt commands for Paradime, comparing with Cursor that does require some additional setup work with the extensions in here. Next thing up is what I think is where Snowflake definitely shines. So in Paradime, we do have a data explorer in here, which is a way for compiling your SQL, previewing your data. We, in a similar way, we do have a SQL workbench here as well that allows us to work with the workbench. So if I do, for example, compile, copy file name, I'm going to select from this. Okay. I can now do what we call scratch files, which are basically non-tracked files that you can create to explore the data in here. So whether you're using refs and macros, you can writing into that, or just using some SQL. If we go and we look now within Cursor, we do have a query results that we can use here. Now, what's interesting is that query results is not, of course, natively available within Cursor. We do have set up our extension to work with this. So I can go ahead now and click on preview this data, same way of what we did with Paradime there. So that's good. And then I can looking at whatever data I want there and export it and so on. So that's good. Yeah, there is a way to use some of the preview data they want, similar to Paradime, using what they call just creating a file and running some SQL here. What is interesting is that this is not a scratchpad file, so you have to make sure that you're not committing your changes. So if I go and I save this, it's going to be saved within, I don't know why it's saved with this extension, but anyway, preview data, it's not like comparable experiences, I guess, within Paradime and Cursor. And now let's go and look at Snowflake Workspaces. Interesting things, I do have to compile the file first. So if I now click on recompile, now I do have my compile SQL available in here. And now I can actually go and press run. Okay, I need to select the warehouse. and the database here. Okay, so let's try again. Okay, perfect. This is where I think Snowflake provides an amazing experience around SQL exploration, which I think where Snowflake shines. We can again preview the data that we want. We have the ability also to look at charts and a bit of more information around. Okay, let's see. Should have some charts capability available. Okay, yeah. So this is, I think, is pretty cool. It's pretty powerful. It allows us to get some insights around the data that we're looking at, which is great. I think if I had different queries, I probably should be able to also use the charts in there. And the only interesting thing, though, is that I cannot freely move between DBT development and SQL development within this construct here. I will need to first compile the SQL and then get the SQL and run. So here's where now I can actually get AI suggestions and working with AI to update this, which is cool. And yeah, I think from a data preview perspective, there are definitely quite a few differences there. I think, yeah, within Snowflake, you have charts and you have this pretty cool data profiling tabs, which can be quite useful if you're looking with a lot of data. And here, I think SQL Workbench and SQL Exploration is definitely where Snowflake really shines in here. But yeah, within whether it's Cursor or Paradime, you still have the ability to explore data and work in a much more seamless experience within DBT/standard SQL. Note that within Cursor, we do need to make sure that the cursor setup is there in place for us, which is not something that comes out of the box there. So that's good. Now let's go and look a little bit more into Snowflake. Let's say I want to look at a model that I have here in my staging files. Let's say drivers in here. So I have a list of drivers and their date of birth. So let's say I want to find out now what are the drivers that were born in the 1990s, right? So again, I don't have the ability to actually work within the SQL code with that. But if I go here, I should be able to use Command I. Use okay. Perfect. Let's say, can you create SQL model, then return list of all drivers born in 1990. We try and point to stage F1 -- drivers in here. Trying to basically create a query now in here. And it's interesting, it's not really accessing the SQL, but it's accessing the table that was created by that case. Okay, I need to select the warehouse again. Okay, cool. Yeah, so I was able to find a bunch of drivers in here that were born. But let's see if we're able to, so can you now migrate this as a DBT model? Okay, so it's able to also help us creating this as a model file. Now, interesting thing here is that it's actually looking at the sources in here rather than the model I pointed out for directly. So I wanted to kind of extend the model. It wasn't able to, went through a bit of a turnaround there to actually go ahead and create the model for us, right? Let's go and now, look at exactly the same thing. We're going to try and do this exactly same thing within Paradime 2. I can go ahead and create a new chat in here, and I can go and select my drivers list in here. And here I can say, can you create a new model which shows the drivers born in 1990s, and I can point exactly to this file here. So I want to extend this model, so I can just press enter. And let's see how this goes along. Okay, so it created the model for me. It actually created the model as an intermediate model because it was like an extension of the one before. You can click on this now. And now if let's say I want to go and preview data as well. Yep, perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to do here. Basically asking to extend the model in comparison to Snowflake, which can decide to do something a little bit different there. So I'm going to create the same prompt now also within here. So I'm going to create a new chat. And I'm going to provide the same files as context. Cool. And let's see. Where we have. So it's creating a models on here as well. It's reading stage of drivers. It's now creating a to-do list. I think it's a bit of an overkill in here. And let's see. where we get to. Okay. Okay, perfect. Yeah, it created the model in here. It's a bit more verbose in terms of they're like two cities, basically, for no apparent reason. But yeah, I guess it did what we wanted to do. In a way, let's go and do data preview here as well. Okay, perfect. Yep, yeah. We got the same results there. So yeah, we're able to do a bunch of things in a similar way, I think, within cursors and Paradime. I think, yeah, it created a bunch of more calculated fields here, which I wouldn't have expected, but for them, they were able to create that. Now, something here that it didn't really follow was some of my rules. So it didn't create this as an intermediate model as I would have expected, but that's we still were able to achieve what we're after there. Now, in comparison with Snowflake, actually a bit of some sort of like a gap there. So I wasn't really able to follow a similar flow here, but rather it didn't pick up initially the fact that I wanted to create a model. I had to like prompt that separately. And then only then I was able to ask to create a model, but it didn't create the model picking up from the context I provided initially, but they actually went and built that directly from the source again. Yeah, we've been going through a bunch of workflow now, so we can wrap up a few things. And now that we create this, how do we know basically a few informations around the lineage, right? So how do we understand what's happening here? So I'll go and create a commit file for now here. Okay. And we'll go to Snowflake. We'll look at the DAG. Cool. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So I can see the DAG all at once here, which I think is good. However, I wonder how this is going to actually pan out into. Let's see if I can. If I select a different file. Okay, crazy with tabs. Okay. Yeah, I think it's good. I can see the lineage and some metadata about it, which I think is always useful as part of my development. However, it seems that it's showing to me the full lineage all the time, which might not be great. Yeah, I have access to lineage, okay, but only within, of course, what is available inside our databases and data warehouses. And it seems that it's showing the old lineage all the time. I wonder if this could be a bit challenging to navigate with much more complex project there. But let me go now and create a commit for this one too. Okay. Now I'm going to go here. We have the extension. So again, this is not available natively out of the box for us, but with the extension, we are able to see, yes, we're able to see the lineage in here as well. I think this works based on whichever model we select on that front in there, which is pretty good as well. I still use some sort of like filtering there, which is available for me, but yeah, we can see the lineage the same way. Now, let's go and look at Paradime from that angle in here. So we'll go and click on the lineage in here, and I'll just collapse that a little bit more. Yeah, so one of the things which is something that Paradime supports, and you won't get this with any of those two tools, is the ability to actually see more than what's happening within your DBT estate. Here we have anything that goes beyond our DBT pipeline. So I do have a Looker integration set up in my workspace. So I can see my Looker views, explores, looks, and dashboards. Similar thing we do with other tools like Sigma, Tableau, Power BI, and hotspots as well. So you can actually see a lot more than what's happening into your data estates here, which is quite powerful to see, particularly as you develop your data pipelines there. So clearly from the lineage, there's a very big difference here. One is Paradime does provide an extended view of what happened there, comparing with Snowflake Workspaces and also Cursor, where you actually have the ability to see. Yeah, a few things here with this comparison. Clearly, there are some similarities across various different interfaces across those three tools, but definitely we can see how probably from a Cursor perspective, there's a lot of setup involved, a lot of things that we have to do to make sure that everything is up and running. First, Cursor is a shell, so there's no pre-DBT installs or lineage or catalog or data explorer, so none of those things are available. in here. Now I can see here the catalogs. I can see a set of information available to me on descriptions and so on as I select my files. And if you go to, from Snowflake perspective, I don't see the ability to see any of this information available to me in here. I wonder if it's available inside there. No, there's no catalog interface at this point as part of the development within Snowflake either. But then if I go, I guess, in here, I should be able to use the extension to see. Let's see, it's not coming up right away here, but yeah, there should be the ability, I think, to see some of the, okay, here you go. So it's not pulling the columns yet, but I guess, yes, I can see also here the descriptions as well. So yeah, I think that's the comparison across these three tools. And yeah, I think definitely there are some common grounds around certain areas, but I can see how, I guess, Snowflake is purpose built for SQL exploration, which I think is really great at, but there's no Copilot, there's no agentic experience at the moment there. And with Cursor, yeah, there's been a few gaps in terms of Cursor itself, unless we set up the VS Code extensions first. And we need to make sure also that we have to set up the MCP. We'll do one last thing, which is, can you delete my schema dbt Fabio in Snowflake? So I see in here, the way how we work in Paradime is that we don't let the agent necessarily go and delete our schema here. So if I go here and I try and run this, for example, nothing will actually happen on that front. For example, I will try and hard to do things, but yeah, that's what happened there. Now, if you go to the other front here, it's like, can you delete my schema with Fabio? So from a Paradime perspective, we build this with Guardrail in place, basically that the agent, the Snowflake connection by default won't have the capability to run those drop statement in here. But if we actually look at this, it was like call drop object. So if I go here and I click on run, I think this will ultimately go and delete my schema. Let's see. Actually, it's having some trouble with connection again. Cool. I think that's all from this session.